Hi, welcome to my master classes again. Cooking with Bosch. Today we're doing sauces. I had initially promised on social media that I would cover sauces in detail, and as I sat thinking about how I'm going to do this, I realized that there's no way you can cover sauces in detail on Twitter and on YouTube and on social media, unless you are running a proper class and you've got hours and hours and hours. Let me explain the basics of sources and why you understand why I can't be showing you the entire um, theory of sources. There are five base sources. We call them mother sources. The first one is a Espanol sauce. Espanol sauce, the base of an Espanol sauce is a brown stock. So that would be your lamb, your beef, basically all your red meat stocks. Then you've got a veloute. A veloute's base is a white stock. So that would be your chicken, your fish sauces, things like that. Your fish stocks, I mean. And then your third stock would be bechamel. A bechamel, the base of it is dairy. So either milk or cream or cheese. Those are your sauces that you'd use for fish sometimes. You'd use them for your pastas and your lasagna, things like that. Those are your white sauces, your bechamels. Then the third or fourth one would be your hollandaise sauce. Hollandaise sauces are your emulsions. Sorry, I'm losing track of my thinking because there's so many things to talk about. Your emulsions are your mayonnaises, your hollandaises, your aioli. The base of your hollandaise sauces would be egg yolk and butter. Then the last one is your tomato sauces. Those are the ones that we know in South Africa. Tomato sauces would be our chakalaka, for example. But it gets even more complicated. So from those five mother sauces, you've got in total, I think it comes to 80 derivatives that spread out. It fans out. When I was at chef school, we had actually a tree, and it would be the mother sauces, and we had to name every single sauce that comes from each mother sauce. So, for example, your Espanol sauce, which is what I'm going to be showing you today, the derivative of an Espanol sauce, I'm showing you an au jus. An au jus is a sauce that is made from the juice that comes, or juice, the juice that comes from the drippings from whatever you've cooked. So this would be all the liquid that has come off your steak that you've grilled, or your roast that has been in the oven. In England, they would call it a simple gravy, but it's not really a gravy. The French and the English fight about it a lot. Gravy and jus are completely different. I'm not going to get technical about it. What I'm showing you is a jus, French style. You need to have a stock. Uh, please don't use stock cubes. Please don't use powdered stock. They do sell stock sachets these days. You can even buy stock in a can if you don't really want to make your own stock at home. But I would suggest, especially now during quarantine that we have the time, make your own stock at home, freeze it in sandwich bags. So whenever you need some stock to make a sauce, you just grab one sandwich bag, you defrost it, and voila, you've got stock to make to use for your sauce. What I did is make stock using pork trotters. The trick is with the stock, you want it to be gelatinous, and you get that gelatine from slow cooking beef bones. Beef bones have it naturally in them, but it takes about a day to get it really, really properly gelatinous. So a shortcut, which I shouldn't be telling you about, but it is, if it's for a sauce that you're serving to people who eat pork, is to add trotters or chicken feet, things that have lots of gelatin in them, to your boiling stock. And in so doing, it makes the process faster, which is what I did. So the stock that I'll be using today, you'll see it's very gelatinous. It's because I got it from boiling down some trotters. But yeah, it's a very simple process. There are certain techniques you need to follow. But like I said, we're doing 101. So we'll touch on Espanol sauce derivative today, which is au jus. Then on another day, I'll do your bechamel type sauces, which will be your mushroom sauce, because that has a dairy base to it. We'll do hollandaise and mayonnaises another day. So I'm just filling up lockdown. If you hear thunder in the background, it's been raining for 3 days now. Yeah. So this is me bored, trying to also get people cooking again and trying to get you to stop using soup powders to make sauces or buying the sauces in a jar. Next time you buy a sauce in a jar, I want you to please read the label and read the amount of ingredients that are in there, and then look at how I'm about to make a sauce compared to the amount of ingredients that are in a bought gravy or a bought sauce. So it's healthier to make things from scratch. Even if you're using unhealthy ingredients, at least you know where they come from, rather than buying them with a whole lot of preservatives and a whole lot of numbers. Know your product. You are what you eat, end of the day. As I blabber on, let me stop blabbering on. This is how you make a au jus sauce. Oh, it just dawned on me. I'm sorry that there are a few basics that you're going to need. You're going to need butter. This won't work with margarine because margarine melts differently to butter. You're going to need, well, I mentioned the stock earlier, you're going to need a stock. You're also going to need herbs and garlic for this. I'll write it all down underneath the description. Someone asked me to do that now, even though it's in the video, but I shall aim to please. And you're also going to need flour. If you are gluten intolerant, you can use corn flour. But be careful with corn flour because it thickens much quicker than standard flour, and it also tends to get stodgy. So you have to use less of it to get the same effect as you would with flour. And another thing is with steak. If you are grilling steak, you always remove steak out of the fridge 30 minutes before you grill it. The science behind that is if you putting something cold on a very hot pan, the first thing it's going to do is seize up. So the steak seizes up and then it opens up and it lets all the moisture in it out, which results in a dry steak. So if you're going to be grilling a steak, take it out 30 minutes before you grill it. That applies to actually every protein. Some proteins you can't do that because of health reasons like pork, but others you want to get them at a close to room temperature as possible before you actually put them to a high heat. That makes sure that whatever it is that you're grilling or cooking stays as moist as possible. Especially with steak, you want it to be moist, you don't want it to be dry. But yeah, those are the basics of what we're about to do. I hope you learned something from all these things that I'm showing you. These are the ingredients you're going to need. Over here is unsalted butter. Always rather buy unsalted butter than salted butter. It's easier to regulate the saltiness of something by adding salt later rather than the thing being already salted, okay? Especially when baking, unsalted butter. This is crushed garlic. What I did was take a knife and pressed it firmly against a chopping board. I didn't chop it. You'll see why as soon as the video begins. This is fresh rosemary. Because of the lockdown, I didn't have fresh sage and fresh thyme. But if you have those, you can add them. Fresh thyme and fresh sage. This over here is crushed black pepper, sea salt, and over here is corn flour. I would recommend you rather use normal flour. Corn flour is a bit harder to work with, but it makes your process a lot quicker. I'm using corn flour simply because I do not have normal flour because of the lockdown. All right, let me run through them again. Unsalted butter, garlic, rosemary, black pepper, salt, and corn flour. If you're someone who likes spices and other herbs, you can add them as well. That's not a problem. As you watch this video, you'll realize how flexible it is. These are just the base ingredients that I'm going to be using. Okay. And over here, I've got a porterhouse steak. You'll notice I've put it on a clean disposable cloth. I've left it out for 30 minutes. What you want to do is pat it as dry as possible. You want to get as much of the outside juices off of the meat as possible. The surface of the meat should be as dry. The reason is when you seal it, because there's no moisture on the outside, it seals much better. The skin on the outside, not the skin, the flesh on the outside actually caramelizes better. All right, you can use clean paper towel as well. And over here is my stock that I made with my pork trotters. You notice how jiggly it is, like a jelly. That's the effect you want from a stock. You want this dark color and you want it to be jiggly like a jelly. That is what gives you your best sauces.